Every golfer needs to improve their short game, and there's nobody more qualified to handle that subject than the man to my left, Mr. Dave Pelz. How many years has the short game been part of your life?
Oh my. I did the research in 1975 that showed 60 to 65% of the shots in golf occur inside of 100 yards, and 80%, more importantly, 80% of the strokes lost to par are in the short game and putting. It's the most effective way for a golfer to lower their scores is to improve their short game. The shorter you knock your wedges, the closer you knock your wedges to the hole, the shorter the putt you leave, the better putter you are and the lower score you make.
Since that time way back in 1975, have we gotten any better at this game from 100 yards in?
Let me tell you, it has been a fight. It has been a fight because you're not old enough. You don't remember. People didn't even used to call it the short game. When I found that there was a difference in the accuracy that pros executed shots. I mean, your driver, if you're aiming at the center of the fairway and your average driver's distance years ago, back when I'm talking about 75, the leading money winners tour driving average was 264 yards. If I put a target out at 264 in the center of every fairway and said, okay, pros, you hit that, they're more accurate percentage-wise than they are with their wedges. And I found that drivers, 3 woods, 5 woods, 2 irons, 3 irons, 4 irons, 5 irons, 6 irons, 7 irons, 8 irons, 9 irons, pitching wedges that they hit full, the average tour player has a 7% error. That means in 100 yards with a pitching wedge back then, they would miss it by 7, plus or minus. It was 20 feet, plus or minus, you know. Long or short, left or right, doesn't matter. Miss your target by 7%. All those clubs I just mentioned, the average tour player was 7% average. The great ball strikers were 6 1/4, 6 1/2. The terrible ones were 7 1/2 until they got to their wedges. And then if you looked at partial wedges, you put all those categories and measured the distance between every golfer and the shot and his target. Average error, 26%.
Wow, 26?
On the PGA Tour. The best ones were 23. Tom Kite was 23. And I went to Tom Kite, who thought at the time he was a great wedge player. And I said, T.O., it's Thomas T.O. Kite, Jr. T.O., your wedge is your weakness. He says, you're crazy. What are you talking about, Pelz? I'm a great wedge player. Now, he never won a tournament at the time. So we started measuring, found out his wedges were not very accurate because what happens when you get inside of 100 yards? If you're outside of 100 yards, how far do you hit a 7-iron?
170, 65 to 70.
Let's say 165. Good. That'll relate to the average golfer. You're a pretty big guy. You hit it long.
Plus, I fabricate a lot, too.
All right, let's say you hit it 160.
That's probably good.
All right, you go to 160. What do? You say, well, I'm going to make a 160 swing. No. You pick out your 167 iron, and you say, I'll just make a normal swing with it. Ball goes about 160. Why don't you pick a 2-iron and lay the face open and cut it and hit it half? That's a tough shot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. You pick your club to determine your yardage on everything in this side of your driver. You hit your driver as far as you can, but you shouldn't, by the way. You should try to hit it exactly your perfect distance. You'd be much more accurate with it, but forget that. We can't teach that lesson today until you get to your wedges. And then you hit your pitching wedge. Back then, the highest lofted wedge when I went out on tour was 55 degrees. In the entire PGA Tour, the highest lofted wedge was 55. And they were hitting it about 100 yards. So I said, well, what do you do for 50? Well, you take a 55-degree wedge and you hit it half. Well, all of a sudden, instead of picking your yardage, determining your yardage by your club selection, you're determining your yardage up here in your head. You're taking a backswing, and somewhere on the way into the ball, you're saying, don't hit it too hard, or maybe hit it harder, or you're making decisions in your mind's eye.
Calibrating on the fly.
All of a sudden, instead of missing left-right, wedges were missing long-short. You see, long irons don't miss long-short on the tour. They miss left-right. Well, you get into a wedge, all of a sudden, you're hitting the ball pretty high. You're not hitting it left and right, but they can't hit it the right distance.
Now, are golfers, as a general species, quick learners, or are they a little stubborn when it comes to somebody saying, hey, let me recalibrate your thinking?
They're stubborn, and they have habits, and they have terrible habits. Young golfers are wonderful. I love to work with young kids and women because they're women are more open-minded. They haven't had as many lessons. They haven't ingrained as bad of habits. Young kids, they say, oh, you want me to do it this way? Okay, and they do it. They don't have any bad habits to get rid of. The average American golfer that I did most of my test data with, when they had a 50-yard or a 40-yard wedge shot, they'd take the club back almost as far as they did when they had a 100-yard shot, and then they'd ease into it. They'd decelerate. And that's what caused all the errors. The club head passes, they try to slow their arms down, but they don't think about the club head and the hands. And so they hit behind it, they decelerate into it, maximize the error at impact. And if they would just take a shorter backswing and go, that was the first fundamental of my school. Put the ball further back in your stance, because a lot of people play them too far forward, trying to hit them higher. And they decelerate. If you put the ball back in your stance and accelerate through impact, take a shorter backswing and now go. If you only take a half backswing, exactly one half, and then go to a full finish, you'll hit a 100-yard wedge 55 yards. That's the definition of half. If you take a three-quarter backswing, it goes 75 yards. That's what, well, one of my star players, Mickelson, and he calls it the Pelz shot. You know, you may have heard on TV that Bone says, well, let's use a Pelz 9 or a Pelz wedge or a Pelz 60 or a Pelz 64. That's three-quarter backswing. That's what Phil thinks of as three-quarters, is the Pelz backswing. And it hits the ball 75% of what he can full, has a little less backspin, has a little lower trajectory, but is much more consistent in distance.
All across the country, your name is a part of some awesome golf schools that take place over the span of a couple of days with qualified instructors and concentrated on short game. Can you share with us what's the benefit of taking that amount of time and dedicating that kind of effort to attending a Pelz Golf Academy?
Well, our tagline is 3 days that will change your game forever. And the reason for that is if we can give you a new way to make a backswing, a new position to hit the ball from, a new rhythm, and try to get you in your best rhythm, position, body, and equipment, we can help you hit balls at 75 yards, at 50 yards, at 25 yards, more accurately than you ever have before. And of course it's an obvious thing, but people don't realize it. The closer you hit your wedges to the hole, the shorter putt you leave yourself and the better putter you become, the lower your scores. I personally think the wedge game is the most important game in golf. I mean, I think there's a putting game on the greens. I think there's a wedge game between the edge of the green and 100 yards. And then I think there's the full swing thereafter. All right, I practice my wedge game first, my putting second, the rest of the game third, in equal thirds. I try to get my pros to do that. Hard to get. You ask about golfers, are they easy students? They're stubborn. They want to go hit the drive. There's a lot of male ego in the driver. I don't want to hit it long. Who hits it longer, you or me? I mean, that's a contest. And I say, great, let's go to a driving range and find out. But let's don't try to score and see who can hit it the furthest. I want to hit it into play off the tee. I don't care really where I hit the second shot as long as it's not into trouble, because I'm going to get it up and down.
So your scoring school doesn't feed the testosterone side of us. It feeds the scoring side of us.
I've spent 40 years trying to get people to understand how important the short game is. Do you know that when I came into the game a long time ago, most clubs didn't have a practice green in their practice range. They have a tee and a field, and then go hit it, warm up, and go play. Don't worry about your short game. You're not allowed to hit any wedges to our putting green now. Don't put any ball marks in it. Do not practice.
No chipping allowed.
No chipping allowed. I've seen many of the signs. Well, no more. I mean, modern clubs are built with practice areas for the short game, and then the full swing, and then, of course, there's the golf course. I feel great about that. I feel like I've made a tiny little contribution to the game because people some people understand more. The people that are listening, the people that are reading, the people that are caring about their score are learning about the short game, and they're improving it.
Well, on behalf of golfers everywhere, some you've heard of and most you haven't, thank you for your passion for this and for all that you've done for the game and for having these schools around the country. This is a big deal because it affords the opportunity to average golfers to fall in love with the game again because suddenly they've learned how to play it from inside of 100 yards. So thank you.
Do we have one more minute?
We do.
Let me give you the new pitch. Okay?
Yeah.
Everything you said just now is perfectly true. But there's something new I've been working on the last 10 years. And I've only recently cracked the code. I know how to teach green reading. All of a sudden, in 10 years of research, all the things came together, and I found, and I've been doing a lot of intensive research in the last 9 months. I have cracked the code on green reading. Most golfers don't know how to read greens. I mean, you look at a putt,
me included,
and you putt 30 to 40 times around, and you have to aim your putter on every one of those putts. Where are you going to aim it? Well, people guess how much it's going to break, and I've determined many years ago that over half the putts that are missed inside of 10 feet are not misstroked, even though all golfers blame their strokes for missing. That's not the problem. They don't know where to aim. If you knew where to aim, you'd be a much better putter inside of 10 feet. I've also found that half of all putts, putting is almost half the game, half of all putts are 12 feet and in. Now, most golfers don't realize that either. They practice.
Maybe not your first putt, but eventually you'll get
in a round of golf, you have 6, 7, 8 putts that are longer than that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you chip inside of 12 feet a lot, and all your second or third putts are inside of 12 feet. So it turns out 3/4 of your putts are inside of 12 feet. I mean, that's a fact. You say, geez, I didn't realize that, but it's true. Now, I've got a Kickstarter campaign because I've got all my data, but I don't have the programming to put it together. I don't have the video that shows you. I'm writing a book, but I've written 7 books, and I know that golfers read them. They know a little bit, but they don't learn a lot. And you can't learn to read greens out of a book. You've got to learn what to do and what to look for. Then I've got to show you on video how it looks. And so I've got about $100,000 worth of video I'm doing this summer. I've got about $80,000 I'm doing on my website so I can stream the video to the golfers. I'm writing the book, and I want on March 8th all golfers that are interested in their short game to go to Kickstarter.com and ask for Pelz and pre-order the book and the video. So I'm not asking for free money. I'm just saying to bring the new technology of reading greens to golfers who have to aim their putter somewhere for the rest of their lives 30 to 40 times around. It's the most important thing I think I will ever do in golf. Well, teach people to read greens.
If there's one thing we've learned over the course of several decades is that when this man puts his mind to improving our games, it works. So the fact that you've cracked that code is really encouraging and exciting. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And again, the scoring schools all around the country, fantastic.
We love the schools. Within a year, we're going to, I think, move the green reading into our normal school locations. But right now, I've redone my whole facility in Austin around my office so I can teach 2-day schools on green reading starting this fall. And we're going to add that later on to our 3-day schools, you know, and we won't have 5-day schools, we'll have 3 and 2. But the important thing is, if you imagine, if you can aim your putter better inside of 12 feet, you're going to make more putts, and that can really affect your scoring.
Again, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Appreciate your passion for the game. Dave Pelz.